Good morning, Rabbi Oziel. Nishmas Shabbos Parshas From our growing MDY Chaver in Boston, Ben Bressel was seen doing the daf while on a bus from Boston. Members of his shul are traveling this morning for July 4th Yarchi college trip to Lakewood. That's the way to travel, doing the daf. From Gershon Rose, a group of Yidden in our annual swim for Torah across lake, also water, something like that, in the Lake District. Look at the background. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Here he is.
Hi, Rabbi Eli. Loi me'ever ayami. You mentioned that people be captive with swimming across Oswater here, 1 kilometer across.
Oswater.
There might be somebody there who hasn't yet found out about the daf. See you there.
Loi me'ever ayami. Wow. Rabbi said, this is the guys in Ramat Bet Shemesh listening to the shir that's played on the screen. There are a lot more people there in the non-live than here on the live. And finally, from yesterday's very impactful video that I showed, Pinital. I want everyone to know that the video we showed at last night's shir of me thanking you was done under duress. Attaches a picture showing how you pushed me into it. But I forgave you already. When you called me on Friday, we schmoozed on the phone for almost an hour. You gave me way more time than your friend who tried to save your marriage by preventing you from getting a get before you left to New York. All kidding aside, I want everyone to know that I gave a long speech telling my story from abuse to survival. The part of me thinking our Magachir rebellion wasn't a plug for MDY. It was part of my story that was true and really changed my life and my family. When people send emails how it changed their lives and saved them in the worst of times, it's not just an email to make everybody feel good, it's really true. So I want to thank you again for sharing the video clip, and I hope this goes viral. A, it may bring more people to the daf. B, it will be seen by even one person who's in a very dark place and will decide to check out the shir out of curiosity, it may save his life as well. You asked him Friday on the phone what it is with the shir that people always say that changed their lives. I answered, MDY is a family like no other. Even though I don't know personally most people from the shir, we feel like we're best friends. It's the achdus that brings us together. Now I'll add, it all starts in the top. When you called me on Friday, it wasn't just a phone call thing. You stayed on the line and schmoozed for almost an hour, as if we always knew each other. The young boy inside me finally got a Rebbe at the age of 48. He's always yearned for. For your information, I was about to put up the kugel when he called me. By the time we got off the phone, my wife already made it and was almost ready to eat. She wasn't very happy, to say the least. A gesunte Woche, Pinny Tau. All right. The Koil, jumping right into the sponsors. The Koil is sponsored by Anonymous from Lakewood, who was here last night. L'schus Shalamis Esther Bas Belo. The Koil is sponsored. Ilui Nishmas Chaya Ben Moshe and Ilui Nishmas Pitzal Ben Moshe. The Mesech is sponsored by Moshe Banda. To thank Hashem that I'm able to thank Him for everything that I have. The Paras HaChodesh, Hashem should open up all the tzinorot bracha for Baruch Tzvi Nissim, Ben Shoshana Lea, Paras HaChodesh of Rosner, Eli Nishmas, his 17-year-old son, Yacov Chaim, Ben Shlomo Yehuda. Paras HaChodesh, Lebovic families, Lakewood, New Jersey, because torah and achdus are the best segula. And to mention just the chassan, David Feder, chassan that married my niece, was wearing Andrew Locke custom-made suit. Stop. It's all from the shpacha. The Paras Chodesh, Nishmas Chaya Bas Yosef, Paras Shavua, Tzvi Corlin in memory of Faiga Chaya Bas Yacov Chaim who passed away Shabbos Parshas Korach. Paras Shavua, Benchetrit, commemoration of this week's 11th yard side of Rabbi Yosef Oziel from Miami, who passed away when he was only 42 years old and was instrumental of Michael Benchetrit doing a Siyam Shas and continuing on this cycle. By brain intact, unleash your full potential. Should be zoich the nafsik dusha, tremendous success in all my endeavors. Parnas Hayoim, the Welcher, Greenfield, and Miller families. Leon Welcher, the famous Leon Welcher, who published the last 3 art books, Nedarim, Nazir, and Saita, all by himself, paid for it all. Ilui Nishmas, Shlomo ben David, beloved father, father-in-law, husband, grandfather, and great-grandfather on his first yard side. And the art, speaking about art, the art of the month, for complete refuah for Chaim Tzvi ben Lea. Rabbi Oziel, here we go. We were discussing the idea of kinyan perios, kinyan haguf, And a machlokes, Rabbi Yochanan and Shlokish. That is, if one sells the produce of a field, the produce of real estate, a nursing home, an apartment building, he doesn't sell the actual principal real estate, he sells the income, the produce of it. How do we view it halachically? Do we view it that that person owns the actual real estate because he gets everything out of the real estate? Or no, it's the person that has the deed to the real estate, he's the one that owns it. And the machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion kinyan peiros kicking in a guf. If you own the fruit, you own the income of the nursing home, it's as if you own the nursing home. So what if somebody leased it to you? You are the actual owner. And Rish Lakish argues. So we're holding the last line on Daf Yomi Amud Beis. I actually have to catch a flight, and we're running late, so hopefully we can finish this up quickly. Says the Gemara, Tamayu, Rabbi Yochanan and Shlokish go according to their own shita, which is exact same machlokes l'chayra, and the Gemara is going to say, why do we need to argue in two different places? If a person sells his field in a time that there's yovel, so again, every 7 years is Shemitah. Every 7 Shemitahs is yovel. Every 50 years is yovel. And that's a time when fields go back to the original owners, etc. Now, yovel only takes place when all of Klal Yisrael, all 12 Shvatim, are in Eretz Yisrael. So if a person sells his field in a time when yovel exists, so what are you selling? You're really not selling much. Yeah? What are you selling? I sold you a field. In 49 years from now, or sometimes it's a year from now, sometimes it's 2 months from now, it's going to go right back to me. So what did I sell you? In reality, all I sold you was peiros. I just sold you the right to use the field, but the actual principle is mine. It comes back to me, so it's mine. So we're talking about bikurim. Remember, the first fruit, you put a little sign on the fruit that it's the first, then you have a lot of fruit, you take those first fruit, you bring it in a basket to Yerushalayim. But there's psukim that you're supposed to say, and you only say those psukim when it's Hashem, when Hashem gave you that field. Now, what is considered your field? The fact that you own all the fruit, is that your field? Or the fact that you are on the deed of the property and that makes it your property? The Bergen says that since it's yovel, and even though it goes back to the original owner eventually, but right now it's mine for the fruit. Mine for the fruit means mine completely. It's my real estate. It's my real estate, koire. The word that we're looking for over here is koire. Do you say the psukim or do you not say psukim? The only time you say the psukim is when you own the field. Says Rabbi Yochanan, halachically it's as if you own the field. Why? Because all the fruit are yours. Rish Lakish Amar, maybe ve'enei koire. And the Gemara explains, Rabbi Yochanan maybe koire kinyan peres kinyan as guvdami. Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion, like we said yesterday, that when you own the produce, you own the field, so you can say the psukim. Rish Lakish Amar maybe ve'enei koire. You don't say the psukim kinyan peres lav kinyan guv. Just because you own the fruit doesn't mean you own the actual real estate. Says Gemara tzricha. I need two machlokes. One where a person sells his field for the fruit, and one where he doesn't sell the field for the fruit. He sells everything. But the field is going to come back in the time of yovel. It's literally the same exact case. So if I'll say only in the case where a person sells his field for fruit, and that Rav Shlokish argues and says it's not like as if you own the field. Because over there the person says specifically, I'm selling you fruit. So what's in the person and the purchaser's mind? Fruit. He's not making any mistake about it. He was told he's getting fruit, and he believes he's getting fruit. Where by yovel, it's very different. Nobody believes, really, that when you buy a house, you don't think for a second, hey, you're going to lose this house in 50 years. Even if you do, in the back of your mind, you know there's something called yovel. You're not thinking about it. Yeah, it's not true. I never heard about it. It's like, it's not there. It's not in your head. But by yovel, when people, they have intent to buy the property. Yeah, even today, people sell properties for 99 years, right? The person that buys a property for 99 years, does he think to himself, one day I'm going to lose it? He died. It's 99 years. Who cares? It's mine 100%. So what does he think? He's thinking fruit or he's thinking real estate? He's thinking real estate. I'm not going to be around in 99 years. Who cares? Let my Yarshim deal with it. In his mind, he's buying real estate. But where a person says straight out, I'm only selling you fruit, so then there's no mix-up. Eimal, whether did I skip? Yeah. He thinks that he's buying the real estate. Maybe Rosh Lakish agrees to Rabbi Yochanan. And if I just said the case of Yovel, that's why Rabbi Yochanan said, because a person has intent for the real estate. But for a regular case where a person sells a field, not in Yovel, maybe we'll admit that it's not Kikinyanagov Tzricha. Okay, fine. So that's why I need two cases. Tashma. We have a riot to Rabbi Yochanan. The what? Hakoinei. Yeah, we're like 10 lines down from Tav Memches. Daf Moyach. Hakoinei ilam v'karkoi. If a person buys a tree, that's not enough. So he buys the ground underneath it, the property underneath. Now, the Gemara understands we're talking about even in a case of Yovel. Even in a case where the property goes back to the original owner, maybe the koire, again, the key word here is koire. He reads the psukim, it's considered 100% his. Why? Because he owns the karka. Wait a minute. The karka goes back to the original owner. If it goes back to the original owner, how could he say the psukim? It's not his. You made the wrong assumption. You thought that you were talking about a time in Yovel. No, like in our days, there's no Yovel anymore. Tashma, another raya. Now, if a person buys two trees, it's not as if he owns the karka. Yeah, like the guy, he found out in order to get married, you need to have a house, but he couldn't afford a house. So what did he do? He went to a guy that owned the house. He said, listen, I do a lot of jogging up and down here. Do me a favor. Here's $1,000. Let me hang a nail right by your door inside. The famous story, right? So he goes, hangs a nail, and he says, when I jog by here, I want to put down my hat. $1,000? Yeah, $1,000 is worth it. One nail, fine. The next day, he puts his hat in a bag. Third day, he puts his hat, bag, and a bag of gefilte fish. And before the guy knows it, smelled up the house, and the guy ran out. He got his house. What's the nimshal is that's what the Yitzhahar does to us. All he does is he bangs in one small nail. He gets his foot in the door. Once he gets the foot in the door, then he adds to it. So this guy, he wants to get his foot in the door. He buys two trees. Maybe that's not considered as if he bought any land. But the Gemara says, it's only because he bought two trees. But three is already a kinyan. It's already you bought a piece of land. Maybe v'koira. But wait a minute. How would he say psukim? It's yovel. All three trees are going to go back to the original owner. The original owner says if you just bought fruit. Buying fruit is not as if you bought the piece of property. We're talking about a case. The reason why he does say the psukim is because we're talking about a time that there's no yovel. Now the Gemara says something that is very understandable. Rav Chisda says, listen to this. Rav Chisda makes the distinction between the first time yovel ever existed and the second time. The first time, nobody believed it. We understood it intellectually. Hashem said that everything goes back, but we never saw it in practice. What? Somebody's actually going to give me back my house that I sold him 10 years ago? The value went up who knows what. If you bought a house in Ramat Bet Shemesh, Yerushalayim, 10 times the amount. Yes, it goes back. After the first time, now it became a known thing and people are soymech das. But in the first time, there's no smichas das. People did not comprehend that they'll get their field back, or that I'm going to lose my field. So Mela, everybody agrees, says Rav Chisda, maybe the kaira, it's considered yours. You purchased land. The Torah says you have to give it back. Not going to happen. It doesn't make sense that law is actually going to take place. But no, after they saw that people cared about the halacha, so then maybe the kaira. And therefore, says the Gemara, You ask me questions from these brises. Are Rish Lakish proof to Rabbi Yochanan? Rish Lakish say no. Those are talking about the first Yovel. The first Yovel, nobody was Samich Das. Then Enochanami, the field was his. Why? Because he didn't think he has to give it up. But by Yovel Sheni, the second Yovel, you could actually answer. It's talking about it in the time of Yovel. Just people got used to it after the first time, but the first time they weren't used to it. Says Gemara, let me get Tanoi. Perhaps the Machlokes Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish is a Machlokes Tanoi. And throughout Shas, when the Gemara asks this, a lot of times, especially if it's a Machlokes Amoraim, like Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish are Amoraim, when the Gemara asks, perhaps it's a Machlokes Tanoim, so it's a good kasha. It's actually a question. Why in the world would Amoraim, who lived hundreds of years later, argue on something that was already argued way before them? As if they're inventing a new Machlokes. They shouldn't be arguing something that prior generations argued about. Where do we see this Machlokes? This is very, very interesting. Again, I get all excited when I see these new halachas. Some people, they fall into a deep sleep when they see it. But for me, it's geschmack. We're learning new sugyas all the time. We're learning new halachas, new concepts. And here's the new concept. There's supposed to be two different colors, but the program makes it the same. Okay. There's something called a Sadi Mikna and a Zdei Achuza. They're different. Zdei Achuza, we can understand what it is very, very simply, and Zdei Mikna also. Zdei Mikna means a field or a piece of property that I bought from somebody else. Zdei Achuza means something I inherited from my father, who inherited from who? From Yeshua. He inherited from his father, but it originates from Yeshua. Yeshua, when he divided the land, there's Israel, he says, this goes to this family, this goes to this family. So it went from generation to generation in their family. Now, we are talking about Yovel here. When I sell you my field, when it comes Yovel time, it comes back to me. What happens if the guy that buys the field donates it to the Beis HaMikdash? So that's called as Zdei Mikna. He purchased the field, and he donated it to the Beis HaMikdash. What happens? It reverts back to the original owner. You can't donate something that doesn't belong to you, really. You try to donate something that goes back to the original owner, and you can't. You knew that it's going to go back to, you bought a field from Reuven. It's going to go back to Reuven in 50 years. You have no business donating it to the Beis HaMikdash. Okay. What happens if you have a Zdei Achuza? You inherited a piece of land that's for 1,000 years in your family's property, and you went and you gave it to the Beis HaMikdash. Well, if you didn't redeem it from the Beis HaMikdash, you have the right to redeem it until you have. But if you didn't redeem it, then it remains the Beis HaMikdash, different than Zdei Mikna. Zdei Mikna goes back no matter what. The Beis HaMikdash has to give it back. Zdei Achuza, if you don't redeem it, it remains the Beis HaMikdash. They give it to the Kehara and they sell whatever. So, fascinating case that happened there. We have a case that a piece of land started out being a Zdei Mikna and flipped into a Zdei Achuza. How's that possible? Huh?
Sold it to a family member.
Oh, very good. Dr. Dauber says that he sold it to a family member. A father sold his field to a son. What is that? A Zdei Mikna, because he sold it. Then the father dies, so automatically flips into a Zdei Achuza. What's the difference in Allah between Zdei Mikna and Zdei Achuza? Zdei Mikna reverts back to the son. Zdei Achuza doesn't revert back to the son. What should we do? It's both. It's Zdei Mikna and Zdei Achuza. Let's see what we have here. Okay, let me see. I have to jump ahead maybe soon. Okay. Unfortunately, in Ramat Shemesh, if I miss a chart, I see all the charts on my screen, and I can just click whatever chart I want to go back and forth. Over here, I don't have the ability, unfortunately, because we're using a different program now. So sometimes it's very difficult to get 10 charts down. What happened? No. So far I'm good. Thank you. Yeah, I will. How do I know if a person purchases a field from his father and he goes ahead and he makes it hagdish, he gives it to the Beis HaMikdash. So what? It became a Zdei Mikna. he purchases it, so purchases a mikna. His father dies, now it becomes his day achuzah. Let me just go, let me jump ahead. No, this is, unfortunately, I have to go through all the charts here. It's my fault. Oh, here we go. So here you have a father and a son. The father is called Yankel, the son is called Reuven ben Yankel, okay? You did a beautiful job here. Here, Yankel, the father, is sitting on a field that he got from inheritance from his father. He goes ahead and he sells it to his son. His son is right now, it's called the Zdei Mikna. The son goes ahead and donates it to the Beis HaMikdash before his father dies. And then the father goes sideways. So now the field becomes Zdei Achuzah. So now we have a situation where the field is both Zdei Mikna and Zdei Achuzah, which takes precedent.
Over being achdus.
Which is it, Zdei Mikna, which will go back to the son, or is it Zdei Achuzah? We're talking about a situation the son did not redeem it from the Beis HaMikdash. Now Yovel came and went, and now the son wants his field back. He said, no, it's Zdei Achuzah, you don't get it back. Says the son, no, it's Zdei Mikna, I bought it from my father, I want it back. So they'll say, no, you can't buy a Zdei Mikna from your father. It used to be a mikna for a year or two, but then when your father died, it turned into Zdei Achuzah maybe. Maybe that's how you learn. Says the Gemara, Tamaloymar, Benai Shtei Lefanok Zdei Achuzah, Tamaloymar, Im Zdei Miknosai, Asher Loim Zdei Achuzah. The Gemara understands that these words, Asher Loim Zdei Achuzah, you bought a Zdei Mikna, you bought a field from somebody. So what do you mean it's not a Zdei Achuzah? Of course it's not a Zdei Achuzah, it's extra. Gemara learns from here, it has to be a field that cannot possibly in the future be a Zdei Achuzah. In other words, if your father dies, even then it's not going to become a Zdei Achuzah. But it comes to exclude this case that we just showed on the screen, that Shiruyali is Zdei Achuzah. It could be a Zdei Achuzah when the father dies. There may be Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi argues. So Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda hold that this is a Zdei Achuzah. It does not go back to the son. The story is different. The story is that it became Hegdish after the father died, not before the father died. He was Magdish it, he gave it to the Beis HaMikdash after the father passed away. How do I know that in that case he doesn't get it back? But let's say he was Magdish it before the father died, then it's his day Mikna. Reb Meir agrees that is his day Mikna because he's Magdish it before, and it will actually go back to the son in that case. And the Gemara says, listen to this, very simple. Think about it. A father dies. What did the field just become? Zdei Achuzah. So if the son is Magdish it after that, why do I need a pasuk for that? Of course it is Zdei Achuzah. He's Magdish it after, it fell to him, be Yerusha. Okay. So perhaps this is machlokes. Oh, so now the Gemara wants to fetch and say, The Gemara wants to say, believe it or not, that this is dependent on the machlokes that we're talking about all day long and yesterday as well. Is a field that you only have fruit, is it considered yours 100% or not? That what? That when you purchase the field from a father, you get fruit. And when you get fruit, it's as if it's still in the father's domain, but you have the fruit. And when you have the fruit, it's yours 100%. So if it's yours 100%, what happened? What was added when the father dies? You hear? What was added? He owned it 100%. And when inheritance is something that you didn't own before. I didn't have this building. The father dies. Now I have this building. But if he owned the building 100%, and then the father dies, what did the death add to what he didn't have before? He already had the fruit, and that fruit equals principle. And when the father dies, he didn't add anything to his Yerusha. That's why I need a pasuk from when the father died. I don't need a pasuk. Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Shimon Savri, Ki in Paris Laki Ki Naguf Dami. No, you didn't own anything. And when the father dies, now you became a balabas. So if you just became the owner, so it's the achuza, I don't need a pasuk to tell me that you can't be magdashit afterward. And now the Gemara is understanding. So what do I need the pasuk? For the other case, the first case that we said, that he was magdashit and then his father died. So the chayra, this is a machlokes tanoim, whether or not king and Paris. By the way, we're starting a new parak, complete new parak in just a few minutes. So if you don't know what's flying, as usual in Daf Yomi, there's always a new start. You could always wake up and have a brand new aschala. Okay.
How can you be like this something that really is?
It depends. Exactly.
You know, if you really has a lease to it, how can you be?
Because if king and Paris can king and if it's not a lease, then you'll know the whole thing. No, I could say no. That's not dependent on this machlokes because everybody's going to hold ki and Paris kikin. And therefore, what? It's a different question. How do you darshan this pasuk? So we're going to see. According to Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yehuda, we darshan two things. According to Rabbi Meir, only one thing. But everybody's in agreement that ki and Paris kikin. So they found the pasuk. Why does the Torah use a lashon misadei? My misadei achuza from his son. So the Gemara says, so basically, and we'll see in a second, or we'll see right now, that according to Rameir, we only learn one chiddush from this pasuk. That what? That the case of if the son was magdashit after he already inherited this from his father, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, we're going to learn the two cases. That case that we just mentioned, that he was magdashit after the father died, and also the case where he made it hekdesh before the father died. Or Rabbi Yosef. Or Rabbi Yosef. Says Rabbi Yosef, a beautiful svar here. If not for the fact that Rabbi Yochanan says, we're lucky. Or Rabbi Yochanan is lucky, says the Gemara. It's a great thing that Rabbi Yochanan holds that if you own the produce, you own the entire real estate. Why? If not, he wouldn't have found his hands or his legs in the Beis HaMedrash. This just triggers the story I just said recently. Well, not so recent, but maybe half a year ago or so. A woman put an ad in the paper, and she's looking for a shidduch. A guy that's not going to hit her, a guy that's not going to run away, and a guy that has a very strong head. So, there's a knock on the door. Shalom Aleichem, I'm here for the shidduch. She looks down, she sees a head without any arms, without any legs. He said, well, what are you doing here? He says, you said not to hit. I can't hit. No, what else? He said, I'm not going to run away. Look, I don't have any legs. Yeah, very good, but what about the strong head? He says, how do you think I knocked on the door? Anyway, so you never know with this crowd. Oh wait. If not for this, he's lucky. He wouldn't have found his hands or his feet in the Beis HaMedrash. Why? What's beautiful is that we keep on going through these ideas in Shas, these concepts, and they're not scary anymore. Yesh breira. Do we say retroactive clarification? When you have two sons that inherited a father and they say, okay, they make a deal. I get the porch, you get the house. So what happened is, it's not that, you can look at it, that's exactly what the father left us. He left this guy the porch and this guy the house. Or no. Ain't breira. There's no retroactive clarification. It's from here on out. We made a deal, we purchased from each other. I gave you a little bit more in the real estate, you give me a little bit more in the car, and now we split ways, but we purchased it. The Yochanan holds we purchased it. There's no breira. He doesn't hold a breira. So listen to this Gevaldik Kasha, says the Gemara. If so, it comes out that every brother must return whatever he had to the other brother by Yovel. Because when you buy a property from somebody, it goes right back to them on Yovel. So if the brothers purchase from each other, then it has to go back in Yovel. Guess what? Then it's impossible in Eretz Yisrael to say the psukim on Bikurim, because The only way to say a pasuk is if you own it 100% and you didn't purchase it from anybody. The only way you can own it 100% is if you were the only son, whose father was the only son, whose great grandfather was the only son, great great grand, all the way to Yeshua ben Nun. Because if there's ever two sons anywhere, then one of them purchased from the other. So it's impossible. And if it's a good thing you hold that payros is like you own the actual property, because if not, now we must see this Taisus over here real quickly. Taisus Diramaski Lav Domer Bechon 3 lines down. Picture Rabbeinu Tam. The question remains for us, for all of society. Forget about Rabbi Yochanan. The question remains according to us. Why? The Kaim along Rish Lakish. We pass in like Rish Lakish the Laka Kinyan Guftami. You said the whole question is according to Rabbi Yochanan, if he holds Laka Kinyan Guftami, guess what? That's how we pass in. And also the Kaim along Midaraisa Ein Breira. We have a major problem, says Taisus. We pass in, there's no Breira, there's no retroactive clarification. And we also pass in like Rish Lakish that Kinyan Pesh Laka Kinyan Guftami. So the only way to say Bikura in the Psukim is if it's Ben Achar Ben Achar Ben. What do we do? And for that, Taisus has different. Maybe usually we do say Kinyan Guf Kinyan Peiros. Another teretz. Okay, I had in Taisus. Omar Rava, one line from the bottom. Kro Masnisam Sailor Rish Lakish. I have a raya, a proof to Rish Lakish that if you own the fruit, you don't own the real estate. Kro Daf Yomi Beis B'Mispash Tvoisim Im Karloch. It says that we go by the produce. Why? Because you don't own the real estate. You go by the produce. 2 years, you have to pay back the amount of produce, not the amount of the karka, because you don't own the karka. Another concept in Shas is called bechar loy noitel beroi ki b'muchzak. It's not exact, but to fit into the chart. And that is that a bchar who gets 2 portions of the Yerusha. And many say it's because, I'm not making this up, many say it's because the oldest son was the guinea pig, the parents' guinea pig in chinuch. I see it straight out, my day-to-day life now. I hope my daughter's not watching. But they invent new concepts in chinuch on the oldest one. And then when that doesn't work, then they kind of mellow out. And by the time you have the youngest kid, you ever see these parents? The youngest kid, you barely do anything. He goes to sleep at 12 o'clock in the morning. He has 3 cell phones. What?
And they turn out the best.
And they turn out the best. Because we don't, Hashem knows that in Mechanech the best. We don't, that's Hashi from experience is saying they turn out the best. I hope your B'char is not watching. Fine. I'm saying this is what they say. That the B'char Nebach, we're strict with him. We want him to be perfect and this and that. He gets double. Fine. But only what is in the father's possession at the time of death. Meaning, if somebody owes the father $10 million, and during the shiva he says, "Oy vey, I feel bad. Let me pay it back." The b'char unfortunately doesn't get 2 portions of that $10 million because it wasn't there at the time of death. It has to be It has to be muhzak. It has to be in his possession, not roi. Roi means potential. Not a potential gain, but an actual thing. Says the Gemara. So it says a b'char gets 2 times in a field that wasn't his father's. In other words, it was his father's prior. The father dies. Today his building in Yerushalayim is not in his possession. But by Yovel, it's going to come back to his possession. So how do we view this building? It's a $10 million building that in 3 years from now, in Yovel, is going to come back to the father. The father is dead. Does the eldest get 2 portions in that building or not? The answer is he gets 2 portions. Why? Because the father owns it. He owns the property. He just sold it to somebody else for the fruit. So what do you see? Let me just see, hold on. Oh. I just want to show you this. 1 second. Means it has to be here available for him today. Okay. Oh, thank you. Turn to Daf Yomi Beis, sponsored by Mordechai Sapaznik in my honor, and also by Tehillim.8 Daf.com. Omar Abai, Naktina, I cannot go to court for you. I have to be the Baldabar. I have to be the one in the fight. Could a husband go to court for the wife's field? No. Unless she appoints him, she gives him power of attorney, Harsha, whatever they want to call it. That's only if there's no fight over fruit. Since the husband owns the fruit and he's eligible, the fruit is halachically, he gets to keep the fruit. So if there's a fight over the fruit, so since there's a fight over the fruit, he could also bring to court the actual field as well. Then for that, you don't need Arsha. Hadran Allah Hashileach, Hadran Allah Hashileach, Hadran Allah Hashileach. So, we're starting a brand new parak here. Believe it or not, well, this parak, which is amazing, is approximately Daf Nun Hey. There's going to be 3 or 4 beautiful, famous daf of Agadata that has to do with the Churban Abayis, and it's going to fall out during the 3 weeks. Amazing. But before we get to those daf of Agadata, there's about 4 or 5 daf of Hanizaken, like the name of the parak, which is really sugyas of Nizikin. What is it doing in Masechtas Gittin? Says Taisvis, it has everything to do with Masechtas Gittin because we're continuing with the theme of Tikkun Olam. We're helping society thrive, and there's certain things that Chacham had to make a takana, including Nizikin, damages from different people. So let's see. Hanizaken shamin lahem be'idis ubalchoiv bebeininis. So, if there's damages, Hanizaken, somebody damages my car, okay? He hits my car, he owes me $10,000. And he doesn't have any way to pay me back. He doesn't have cash. Cash is king. He doesn't have any movable property. What he has is some real estate. But he has 3 grades of real estate. He has the good stuff, the bad stuff, and the medium stuff. What does he pay me with? Well, it depends. If he's a nizak and a mazik, we're talking about damages. Damages you pay from the best of the best. Who's best? The one that damaged or the one that became damaged? We'll see. But if somebody owes money, it goes down. He cannot collect from the best property. He collects from the medium property. He actually did a really nice, let me see if I can find it here. Again, I have to go through everything. So, Yevaldik. Check this out. I love this thing because, I guess I went too far. Here we go. There's 3 pieces of real estate here. You have Yerushalayim, Bet Shemesh, and Kfar Sabra. It's a made-up place, Kfar Sabra. Yerushalayim is the top of the top. Bet Shemesh is the medium. It's American. It's very expensive. It actually is very expensive. Sometimes it's even more expensive than Yerushalayim today. I think Kfar Sabra is Ziburis. So you did beautiful. The idus goes to the nizuk. The nizuk, the guy that gets damaged, here you have Biden in a body cast. I guess it was from when he fell off his bike or something. I don't remember what. He gets idus. The malva, the guy lending money, he gets the middle one, beininus. And the woman, for her ksuba, she gets ziburas. All these are all tikkun olam. First of all, we don't want, let's say, we don't want people damaging other people. You have to be careful. Don't say, it's just the car, it's not my fault. Yeah, it is your fault. You hit somebody, it's your fault. So you're going to pay your best of your best. When it comes to a loan, so Chacham were very concerned. If a guy has a beautiful house, but doesn't have any money, it happens, we know people like that. I have a trick. I go lend him money. I know he won't be able to pay me back. And then I go and chop his house. So we don't want that either. You know what? You're not going to get his house. What you're going to get is some property that he has in South Haven. I don't know, but not his house here in Peterson Park. And we don't want women to start thinking about marrying men or whatever to get their best property. So we say, you know what? You get a ksuba, but you're going to get the worst of the worst. Fine. I just heard a var. I have to tell you. I mean, some people could relate to this. This guy was complaining that everybody bothers him. Everybody WhatsApps him. So some guy told him, "Listen, it's not a problem. The people that are wealthy, go ask them for loans. Then they'll never talk to you again. And the people that are not wealthy, give them loans. They'll run away from you. They'll never talk to you. So like this, you'll never be bothered from anybody." So the Gemara says like this: Mishnah. Rameir argues. He says a woman she should get from the medium land. There's another rule. There's 8 rules, I believe, in this Mishnah for Tikkun Olam. And you cannot go after land that was sold off to somebody else. If let's say you're going for somebody, you borrowed money from somebody, you lent money to somebody, and you're going after his property, you cannot go after property that he sold to somebody else. First, you go to property that he still has in his possession, even if it's the lesser of the properties. If you're going after orphans, you always go for the ziburis, the worst land. So this is a very interesting halacha. If you bought a field from a ganav, I personally know, first of all, a guy that sits next to me in shir every single day in Ramat Shemesh. He told me this story a number of times. He was in He was in negotiations over a piece of property in Yerushalayim for a year and a half. It took a year and a half of his life, only to find out that the guy never owned it. The guy was pulling his foot, thinking that he's going to sell it, and then when he sells it, he'll give the money to the real owner. I know another guy, very well, who actually sold property that wasn't his. He put up a big sign on a building, an apartment building, with his name on it. No, it said his name on it. Nobody realized. He came in the morning, knocked in some nails, and put it. Then he brought a very, very wealthy person over. He says, "You see this building? It even has my name on it. It says my name. You want to buy it? I'll give it to you for a cheap price." The guy, don't ask. The guy sold it. He ended up, it cost the original, the ganav paid through his teeth. The other guy messed him up really well. He got his money back. But there's something like that. There's something called, I sell you a property that's not mine. So that's what happened over here. Somebody sold a property that wasn't his. And the buyer went ahead and invested a lot of money into the property. He improved the property, built a house on it. In those days, they planted trees, wheat, whatever it is. The original owner comes, takes the field, no problem, with the house, with the wheat, everything. Now, the purchaser that bought it from the ganav, he has to go after the ganav. I lost everything. Now I have to go after the ganav. The problem is the ganav doesn't have anything. Okay? So in Mitzim Lachilas Perus, he could go after the ganav and go after his field, but only for the purchase price of the field. What about the improvement of the field, the house he built, the wheat he planted, and Mitzim Lachilas Perus, not for the fruit, in the house. And for supporting the almana, the widow, and the orphan girls. You don't take menachasim shubadim from land that was sold off. This is also to save the world. And if a person finds anything, so we have, the famous case of Moedim Mikzas. In other words, I find $1,000. I give back the $1,000. The guy that takes the $1,000, he says, "Wait a minute, I lost $2,000. You stole $1,000." And what is that called? Moedim Mikzas. You have to make a shvuah. Not in this case, because if that was the case, nobody would return anything. There's a famous Maaser with a guy who found the wallet, and the parrots, it's always the parrots announced, whoever found my wallet, I'm going to give him 10% of whatever's in there. So the Jew came and returned the wallet, and the parrot said, "Wait a minute, there's double. You're not getting anything. There's double. So the attorney told the parties, "You sure there's double? Yeah. Could you swear? Yeah, I swear there's double." They went and they tried to stuff in double amount of money into the wallet, and it couldn't fit. So the attorney said, "Look, since it's impossible that double fit, and you swore that it was double, then it's not your wallet. Then we have to give the entire thing back to the Jew, and you have to look for your wallet." Says the Gemara. So the Mishnah says that why does the guy who damaged somebody else get idus, gets the best of the best? Because we want the world to go to work well. So if you see the pasuk over here, an animal went to a different field. The best field, he has to pay the best of the best. So there's a pasuk in the Torah. So why are you telling me that this is to save the world? Like, as if it's the Rabbanon. That this pasuk is saying that you go based on what the nizuk owns. We're going to explain what this means. Do we go with, how do we evaluate what's good, what's bad? Do we go by the one that was damaged, or we go by the damager? And let's see. It's the best field of the one that was damaged. So it's the mazik, the best of the mazik. And so we're going to explain what that means. Uli Rabbi Shmuel asked the Gemara, what's going on here? So to just explain what Rabbi Shmuel is talking about. The Gemara understood, let's say the guy has a bunch of rows of produce. He has a row of cabbage, a row of tomatoes, and a row of cucumbers. And the animal ate one of them. Now we don't know what he ate. Let's say tomato is the most expensive. I don't know how it goes today. Tomato, what's more expensive, cabbage or tomato? Tomato. So we're going to charge him for tomatoes. Ask the Gemara, does that make sense? If he actually ate cabbage, why should he pay for tomatoes? That's not what he damaged. Why should we give him more? What happened was he ate one row between the rows. Since we have no idea what he ate, so we're going to make him pay the best of the best. Well, since it's possible he ate tomatoes, it's possible he ate cabbage, let him pay the tomatoes, the more expensive. But if he knew for a fact that he ate the worst, he pays the cabbage. Because you don't know, that's why you should pay more. Now, this doesn't really need a Yediyah Shas. This is like one of the most famous things in Shas, but since we just started this idea, let's throw it in there. If you are collecting from somebody else, you have to produce evidence. You don't know what the animal ate. Maybe the animal ate cabbage, so maybe you should pay less. The guy that got damaged says, "Oh, it was tomatoes." Prove it. So Rashi over here says, believe it or not, 2 lines from the bottom, this idea of Hamoitzi Mechaver al Raya is actually in the Torah, because the Torah says, V'hine yar v'chor imochem, mi bal dvar migash aleim, says Rashi. Who's the bal davar who's going to come over here? It says you have to bring a raya, you should come forward and bring a raya. Okay. Hello, Rabbi Yacov, welcome, my skin on. Check this out. You remember the 3 properties we had in Israel? In Eretz Yisrael, we have Yerushalayim, Bet Shemesh, and Kfar Sabra. That's owned by the mazik, by the damager. But the nizak, he owns 3 properties. But guess what? His best is Kfar Sabra. Kfar Sabra is the mazik's worst. And then he owns Kfar Ahmad and Kfar Sayyad. A Beinanis and a Ziburis. Okay, but for Sabra is his best of the best. So how do we do it? Because it is the Nizik, Zibur is the Mazik. That what? The Mazik gives his own worst, Kfar Sabra, which is the Nizik's best. Why should the Nizik get any more than he owns already? His best is Kfar Sabra. He gets Kfar Sabra. Rabbi Kiva Sovar, but the Mazik Shem Yinon, Rabbi Kiva says no, that he has to give this Nizak, whose best property is Kfar Sabra, he has to give him an apartment in Yerushalayim, the best of the best. All right, so we'll stop over here. Rabbi Yosef, have a wonderful day.